Lyndon Forbes Samson Bonham, really known as the master politician and was an outstanding statesman. He was a great leader and our hero, you understand. That's why we remember Lyndon Forbes Bonham.
Yes, morning, Guyana. I'm here with you again. This is our program, which should have been the last Sunday, but for some reason, not for some reason, we decided because of 5 Sundays in the month of March, we decided that we will hold it the last Sunday in the month of March. Our program usually comes to you the 4th Sunday of each month over the years, but we had to make a little adjustment the last week. But today marks the culmination of a series of activities that we were conducting as the foundation to commemorate the birth anniversary and to promote the legacy of Lyndon Forbes Samson Bonham, as we always do. Over the period, we have conducted a number of activities, including a church service, which we started with. But then we followed that up by having our 3-stage cycle race. We also had the start of our conference, which we were unable to complete, but we will talk about that before the program is over and what we'll be doing to finish that conference. Also, we have been able to perhaps superintend our inductees that we have had and we continue to superintend their work and activities. We also had what one can describe as an interesting sports program, which included this kind of cycle race. We had our usual table tennis kind of runoff. We had our softball and competition among schools. And interesting enough, we had in excess of 50 schools participating from Region 3 and 4. And we intend to expand on that program come next year. With me in the studio today, I have the chairman of the foundation, once again, Mr. Vincent Alexander. And Vincent, I want to welcome you to today's program because today's program is a significant program because we're closing off on those activities. And I would like to have some comments from you in relation to what the foundation was able to achieve over the period.
Thank you very much, Clayton. Good morning to the viewers. As Clayton has rightly said, we're closing off a period of celebration of the birth anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Samson Bonham. That period started, as he correctly said, with the church service. And we would like to express our thanks and appreciation to the Kitty Methodist Church, where once again we were able to fellowship on the occasion of the commencement of activities to celebrate the life of Lyndon Forbes Samson Bonham. So thanks goes out to the Kitty Methodist Church for having us with them once again. But that's the place to be because that's where he himself worshipped. That's the school which he attended as well, now known as the J.E. Burnham Primary School, but in those days it was the Kitty Methodist School. Beyond the church service, we then had our usual 3-stage cycle race, Caribbean to Amsterdam, Lyndon to Georgetown to Belfield and back. And we would like to express thanks here to the Guyana Police Force, all the divisions involved that were of tremendous assistance in making this a safe and successful 3-stage cycle race. We also have to express our thanks to the Cycling Federation, the Flying Star Cycle Club, and more specifically to Mr. Howard, who is actively organizing and supervising the race, Hassan Mohammed, who also participated in that team of supervising the race, and there's a third
person, yes.
I don't third official, whose name I'm not remembering right now, that's shameful, who also helped to supervise the race. But thanks very much to the Flying Star Club for once again working with us to make this race possible. This race has now become a calendar event for the Cycling Federation. We'd like to congratulate those who also participated, the over 40 cyclists who participated. If my memory is correct, Crawford from Berbice, who turned out to be the eventual winner of that three-stage race. We then had the table tennis competition, and here we would like to express our appreciation to the Ghana Table Tennis Federation for once again hosting that competition for us. We're able to engage somewhere in the vicinity of 30 to 40 young people in that competition, and some veterans as well, Colin France, for example. And so we're very appreciative to the Table Tennis Federation, to the president, Mr. Monroe, and to the coach of the federation, who is the one actively involved in organizing this competition for us. So thanks goes out to the federation for that. We then moved on to the cricket. Oh, that lasts for a month. The cricket went from February into March. And we're appreciative of the Ministry of Education for the permission they gave for the schools to be involved. For the regional administrations of Region 4 and Region 3, the education offices that facilitated the attendance of schools. And we had some private schools as well, Mays, for example, and Valdemiki, two private schools that participated. And we must give tremendous thanks to the All-Star Sports Club under the leadership of Mr. Monroe, who were the ones who actually worked on the ground to make this competition possible. And thanks to the National Sports Council as well, that chipped in with sponsorship for our sporting activities. So we are so grateful that we could have involved over 40 schools, about 50 schools, male and female teams in the competition this year, and we do look forward to expanding this next year to involve Region 5 and Region 10. In fact, Region 10 did make an effort this year, but we weren't quite successful in getting them down. We went beyond that, and we have now culminated the series of activities with our annual dinner. Our annual dinner, which was held only yesterday evening, and for that we have to express our thanks to His Excellency the President that once again hosted that dinner at the Maridi Menab, and for all of those persons who came out in their large numbers to attend the dinner. In the case of the dinner, we have to apologize as well for the large number who could not attend because of the restricted numbers that could be entertained at that venue. So we are extremely grateful for the participation, the support we've had over the last 2 months as we celebrated the life of a great man, Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham. During this period, we commenced our annual conference, and that conference was adjourned, and later in the program we will be making some announcement as to when that conference will be reconvened.
That is a long list, Vincent. I must say that the foundation over the years have been very successful in organizing and conducting these programs with a view to ensuring that the work and the contributions of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham remains in the minds of people of this country. We had, like you said, the dinner last night, but I know you did say that we have to apologize to a lot of people who would have liked to be at that dinner. I know the president have some restrictions in terms of attendance, in terms of the size of the venue, but I think when we go over for next year, we should be kind of considering, because I know a lot of people who kind of support the Ghana Foundation would have liked to be part of that activity for last evening, but we could not have accommodated everybody. We're hopeful that come next year, we would be able to expand a little more, to have more of our sympathizers and supporters attend the annual dinner. That being said, I want to perhaps move right away, Vincent, into the hot topic of the day within the country right now. You know, the no confidence vote has been a subject matter since the month of December. And over the past few months, they have been back and forth, different views being expressed by various commentators, writers in relation to what ought to be and what ought not to be. In fact, the ruling of the Chief Justice has sparked across this country a debate that has triggered interests of almost every person in this country, including our neighbors in the region and further afield. But today we want to focus on perhaps a few aspects of commentary that were made by a few writers and commentators on the television as well as on the radio. I remember one piece, and I would like you to perhaps to comment on that, Vincent. Our erstwhile friend, Mr. Christopher Ram, has attempted by way of a letter to the press where he was accusing the PNC, because being the larger group in the coalition government, as bringing to the fore once again elections malpractice that he claimed was done by Forbes Burnham. As a foundation, we take umbrage to those comments, and as chairman of the foundation, I would like you to just comment on that particular claim by Mr. Ram.
Well, you know, Clayton, I have been and continue to be one of the advocates for house registration. And there's been all sorts of responses to that in the context and out of the context as well of the no confidence motion and the 90 days within which elections were supposed to be held and all of that. So Mr. Ram, in one of his letters, and I would describe Mr. Ram now as a columnist, a commentator, a petitioner. He is almost everything in this arena right now, covering all the ground. Seems to have a tremendous interest in this. In one of the articles, which quoted him extensively, referring to this no confidence and house registration, he couldn't help but taking a snipe at Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham with the contention that me and all of this argument about house to house seemed to be invoking the spirit of Burnham and big elections. Because my contention was and is that a list of over 600,000 persons culled from a population of 750,000 cannot be a good list. It has to be a list that is bloated, because where are the rest of the 750,000 all of whom are under 18 years of age? So a large number of this list is made up of people who are obviously not here in Guyana. And to have a list like that evidentially provides for fraud at elections. And only yesterday, I think I read a letter by Malcolm Harvey Paul, where he was specific about the incidents of fraud perpetrated by a certain party during the course of elections on the basis of the bloated list, on the basis of absentee voters and the institution of substitute voters and staged voting, and even in some instances stuffing of the box. So that this is not a figment of my imagination. It is a fact that the excess numbers on the list of persons who are not present provides a great opportunity for fraud. And more than providing the opportunity, there is evidence that this fraud has occurred from time to time. I myself have referred to the evidence of the fraud occurring in Eccles in the 2011 elections, when we had to, on the spot, replace a presiding officer who was allowing substitute voting, allowing people to vote for people who were not present to vote for themselves. And so it is this bloated list that facilitates that. That's a matter of fact. And there are people who try to run away from this, probably because they are perpetrators of the act and want to continue perpetrating those acts. So they don't want a new list, and all sorts of arguments. Nandala has now joined the fray, talking about registration being deregistration and being unconstitutional. And I'll get to that shortly. So Ram jumped on the wagon to try to gloss over the real realities about this need for a list and say, don't worry, Alexander, he is going back to the era of Burnham, which is the era that's over. We don't have those problems with elections anymore. That's Burnham. So, some people seem to have Burnham on their mind. Burnham died how many years ago? And still, every time something occurs, it's Burnham. And so I had to make the point that if you're talking about electoral fraud, Burnham is neither the alpha, the one who started electoral fraud in this country, nor is he the omega, the one who has so far perpetuated it to the end where we're at. Because in our annals, one would have to go to the Houston by-election, where the court determined that there was a fraudulent election in Houston, I think it's 1961, when the PPP was in government. And the court ruled that a by-election should be held. And that by-election was never held by the PPP. So that's 6-1. That has nothing to do with 68 or 73 or 85, 6-1. And incidentally, having made that reference to 6-1, I saw my one of our elders of the Guyanese society, Yusuf Korana, who came out in a letter, in his normal way, to say that the PPP are not known for electoral purity. He came out and said that. He referred back to prior to 6-1. Prior to 6-1, and made the point that the PPP is still vexed with him because he exposed the fact that in the previous election they had been registering people who were under the age of majority, under the age of 21. And he used the claims and objections period to get those persons off of the list. And he's making the point that, they never forgive him for doing that. But here is everyone trying to pile on to Burnham, the mega frauder, the only one who's ever been involved in electoral fraud. But Koran has come up to say, look, I've been around, and while he didn't say that directly that Burnham is not the alpha, certainly quoting the purity quote supports the fact that Burnham is not the alpha of any accusations on electoral fraud in this country. And so I continue the argument by showing all that has happened even in recent times. We have the situation in the 2006 elections where the AFC clearly won a seat in Linden, and the chief elections officer in his calculations or miscalculations or fraudulent calculations attributed that seat to the AFC, to the PPP. Or else Sam Hines would not have been able to occupy that constituency seat in 2006, Pius Sam. And the AFC recognized that something had gone wrong, brought it to his attention. Of course, Boudou knew, so he didn't really have to bring it to his attention. He knew what he had done. All the evidence suggests that. Brought it to his attention in the form of a complaint. And he said to them, this would be rectified. This would be rectified. What rectification did he do? Declare the results and then say to them subsequently that the results have been declared. There's nothing I can do. You have to go by way of petition to the court, which they did, and which they did not lose on substantive grounds. The court never heard the substantive matter. What the court did, there were some procedural issues, and the court says, look, this matter is dismissed for procedural reasons. Something wasn't filed in the right time or something like that. But the fact of the matter is that Boodoo accepted that that the result was wrong. He undertook to fix it, and then literally conned the AFC by not doing so, declaring the results and leaving them out in the cold. Electoral fraud, 2006. We know of 2011, where Boodoo once again, using the same methodology used in Linden in 2006, sought in 2011 once again to attribute an AFC seat to the PPP. He brought a declaration to the commission that was fraudulent. And I'm saying it was fraudulent. And I know the latest thing in these days is for people to take it to court to try to say these things are defamation of character. And I'm prepared to face the court in this regard. It was fraudulent. He fraudulently attributed a AFC seat to the PPP. And had it not been discerned at the level of the commission, and had he not been instructed to go back and to rectify that fraudulent presentation, the PPP would have had a majority in the parliament in 2011, and that was the intention. That was the intention. And so that again happened in 2011, where fraud was actually being practiced on the Guyanese electorate. We also had a situation in 2011 where it was agreed that we would not issue certificates of employment to polling agents. Let me explain that. Parties have agents who are present in each polling station to look into the interests of the party to make sure there is no fraud. Now, sometimes parties are not able to get polling agents who are entitled to vote in the said polling station. So, in the past, these polling agents were given something called a certificate of employment, which is also given to GCOM employees, that allowed them to vote at the place where they were going to work instead of the place where they were entitled to vote, because they're physically in the place where they're working. And so in 2011, after some long discussion, we decided we will not be giving party agents any of these certificates of employment. And Boodoo had been instructed to not issue any because there was this ongoing discussion, and that he could only act on the matter after the discussion would have concluded. So we decided not to give any. Lo and behold, on polling day, I was in the Bramfeld area at the Alexander Village Nursery School, and it was brought to my attention that there were PPP agents who had certificates of employment issued by Boodoo, although he had been instructed in the first instance not to issue pending the discussion, and we had decided after the discussion that none should be issued. We're no longer going to do that. He had issued to PPP, only PPP polling agents in the Alexander Village area. I made contact then with Linden and found out he issued 51 such certificates of employment to people in Linden. So what in fact he had done was created a situation where PPP polling agents could vote in the place where they were working, and other polling agents, other parties, could not vote in the place where they were working. And Malcolm Harry Paul in his letter made the point that, look, this here facilitated certain things. It meant that the other parties' polling agents either could not vote, or they had to leave their station unattended,
To go to the
which
police.
again allowed for malpractices in their absence. So that we have a plethora of electoral irregularities predating Burnham and post-dating Burnham. But some of them would like to paint this brush that the only person who has been involved in any electoral fraud is Lyndon Forbes, Samson Burnham, as if the others are such virtuous persons, when in fact the evidence is there that they've all been involved in electoral fraud, starting before Burnham is accused of being involved, and after Burnham dead, long dead and gone, they're still engaged in this fraud. And that's what we have to avoid continuing. And that is why we have to have house-to-house registration, because we need to reduce the window for the possibility of fraud. And fraud is possible, as Harry Paul recently again attested to, if you have a large number of people who are not present, and parties are able through various mechanisms, through fair tactics, through the absence of scrutineers, through blatant activity of officials like happened in 2011 in Eccles, to perpetrate electoral fraud. So Ram and these guys need to get off of Burnham's back. And if they want to be the conscience of this nation, then they have to be honest and to recognize all that has occurred and not seem to be, you can't be the conscience of this nation when you have one man in your mind. You have to be the conscience of this nation if you're objective and if you're prepared to accept all that has occurred and, take again what Crowder would have said. Crowder would have said in one of his writings, no guilty race. That's what Crowder said, and it's relevant here. No guilty race. So no guilty party, or all guilty parties. But don't attempt to paint Burnham into a corner and to use that history, in fact, now to mitigate against one party in the circumstances that pertain. Now, if I could quickly, in that circumstance, comment on Nandalal's latest excursion, where in a Demerara Waves opinion, he's now come up with this theory that one we're doing deregistration is not registration. And that's a lot of hogwash. It's hogwash for the simple reason that Guyana has been involved in registration, not now. We last did house registration in 2008. We do registration. The methodology is another question. There are two methodologies we've used. We've used either house registration or office-based registration. But the impact of that registration when we do it is that we start from ground zero. We do not have the involvement of the previous list. That list comes to an end. We start from ground zero and we create a new list. So nobody's being deregistered Nandalal. Everyone is being given an opportunity to register, given the fact that it is a practice. It's a practice all over the world for registration authorities to have methodologies to ensure that the list is up to date. It's up to date. And for the list to be up to date, you need to have off of the list the people who have died. And there is some mechanism for that. It is not perfect in Guyana because many people do not register their deaths. And because those deaths are not registered, then the GRO's office cannot say to GCOM, here is a person who has died. Many Guyanese die overseas. They don't even refer to Guyana in the process, and they continue to be on the list. So that one mechanism is to have the dead taken off, but we do not have a complete mechanism to take all of the dead off, local dead and overseas dead. The only way you can deal with them is by a new registration when they can present them their dead selves. So even the GRO mechanism does not sanitize the list because those who have not registered their death, being local or overseas, continue to be in the list. But more than that, there are a large number of people who are on the list who are not resident. And the National Registration Act of Guyana, Section 40, provides for the register of the chief registration officer to extract, take off of the list the names of persons who have left the country and in the period of 3 months would not have returned. So the law provides for this. These persons would then not be on the list. But it has never been activated. So all of those thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Guyanese who were overseas for more than 3 months, and for all intents and purposes may be citizens overseas and residents overseas, are on the list in the face of a law that says they should be taken off. So house-to-house registration provides the opportunity to take them off. Now, here is Nandalal's argument that this registration is illegal because Guyanese under Article 59 and Article 159 of the Constitution have a right to be on the list. They have the right to be on the list. And that is why the National Registration Act that provides for them to be taken off also provides for them through a claims and objections period to have themselves re-included if they're available to do so. So that there is no constitutional issue here of denying them. There's the issue of taking them off if they're not resident, and there's the facility of them getting back on if they're resident. And so once we get into claims and objections, and they were taken off, they're in Guyana, they want to vote, they want to participate, they can go and they can have themselves registered in the claims and objections period. Similarly, if we do house-to-house registration, and Guyanese who are overseas are not allowed to register, at the time when we're doing house-to-house, it means they're not present to exercise the entitlement to be registered. But even in that instance, there is a claims and objections period which those persons, if they're present, and that's after registration, can seek to be included in the list. So the mechanism is there to ensure that no Guyanese who is present in the country and who is going to be present during elections is excluded. But it ensures that those who are not present are excluded, and therefore it removes the mechanism which some seem to want to be in place to facilitate substitute voting by the tens of thousands, because there are tens of thousands of names on that list that represent persons who are not present and for whom fraudulent votes can be cast.
That's a lot.
There are those who argue that, look, they can't have any fraudulent vote because GECOM is now perfect. All the procedures GECOM have are perfect. Now, the perfection didn't occur in 2011 at Eccles. People were substitute voting. Malcolm Harry Paul has made the point that the ink does not necessarily take the immediate effect, and that the people who go and get that ink off and they come back to do the multiple voting that they want to do. So the most appropriate mechanism for reducing the possibility of that kind of electoral fraud, in fact, is a list that does not provide a window for people to represent themselves as if they're someone else and to go and cast a vote. And one has to be concerned about those who have themselves been party to house in the past, who have themselves been party to voting the monies for house in 2019, now so adamantly not wanting a new list. It's no longer a question of 90 days. It's not 90 days is not the issue. 90 days is the ruse for the issue. The issue is that there seem to be those who want to perpetrate fraud using a list that has a window for fraud. And then there are others who want to blindfold people and to say, look, Burnham is the only man be involved in fraud. Those days are over. Those days are not over. The evidence is there, and GECOM has to do all in its power to remove that possibility. GECOM under the law has a responsibility for national registration, elections and demarcation of constituencies, and they must carry out their task.
Vincent, I must admit that that outline there is a lot. But I am very happy that you have come on this program today to clarify a number of issues, because obviously there has been some misinterpretation, or deliberately in some instances,
I say deliberate.
of what of what actually happened, and the things that ought to happen. Now, on this list, common sense, any person with some degree of common sense will understand that a population of 750,000 persons cannot have a list with over 600,000. That in itself is an indication that there is a need for this house kind of registration. And the talk that has been coming from the various persons who have been claiming that the vote, the Chief Justice and a decision to have the 90 days thing, which you said is now out of the window, has caused all kinds of kind of disruptions and maneuver politically in this country. And I think that this kind of clarification that you have just made would go down well. I will be opening the lines right now for persons who are tuned into this program. You can make your calls, make your comment. We would be closing a little earlier on this aspect of the program to tell you about our conference and other activities that we would be having going further down this year to commemorate the death. In this case, it will be death because we have brought an end the activities to commemorate the birth anniversary of Lyndon Forbes Sampson Bonham, but we'll be looking at that coming on closer program. Right about now, I want to open the lines. Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, I think the social association is important, it's fair and just for everyone in this country. So I think this program, right, the Dallas enlightenment that Mr. Alexander does share with the nation should show on 10 of 10. So everyone to get a chance and get a clear understanding of what is really taking place and what is important, why we need to have our social association. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much for your call. Yes, Vincent, I've been listening to people on the ground, and when the explanation was given, particularly in terms of the number of persons on this list in relation to the population, people even say, yeah, common sense, and the president is quite right to support GCOM. In fact, this program is GCOM initiated. This house proposal.
Yes, it's GCOM initiated. GCOM took this decision some time ago to have periodic house-to-house registration. When GCOM took this decision, it was unanimous. All of the commissioners, those who are nominated by the leader of the opposition, those nominated by the government and the chairman, everybody agreed. So this Nandalal roost about unconstitutionality is something new. Everybody agreed. The issue was that we were not given the money because it should have been done 3 years ago. The monies were not available. The parliament in 2018 voted on the 2019 budget, made the money available. So the money is available for the registration, and in fact GCOM has embarked on that. GCOM embarked on that registration based on a motion which was carried at GCOM, and that motion was carried 4 persons voting for, 2 persons voting against, and 1 person abstaining. It was quite a regular and legitimate motion, and on the basis of that motion, GCOM is proceeding with its house-to-house registration exercise. They're presently doing training, and in the not too distant future, they will start the exercise in the fields.
Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, host, please and Hans.
Morning, how are you doing?
Your Christopher Vincent Alexander.
Good morning, morning.
It feels that you're wearing your cap as officials of the Burnham Foundation on this occasion. Therefore, let me make my point in my usual quick staccato rhythm.
Yeah, go ahead.
And with brevity, so that I can get the issues over that I'd like to suggest.
Yes.
Mr. Arnold Christiani, I'm an independent consultant, and that legitimizes my reason for speaking with a program like yours and dealing with other issues of an official context in this country. Firstly, I would want to think that for as long as Burnham Foundation has existed, that then you have your weekly or monthly programs or whatever it is for publicity, that we see at least a prominent member of the Burnham family
for identity purposes, and more so, officials of the Burnham regime one or two of them to be part of your program. I think it will make a statement of patriotism and longevity. Secondly, I wonder why Christopher Ramsey is butterflying his indulgence in this country. He is a lawyer. He is butterflying from charging President Jackson a few years ago as a private citizen, which I wrote a letter about, which was published in the Guyana Times, and I have a copy of that. And to that extent, it influenced the case being thrown out of court. Now, the people who are authorized to deal with the confidence issue in this country is going through a legal procedure. Just Friday, I spoke with Mr. Matthew Bradshaw's program and told him that nobody in this country, very few people, even legal minds, are really in sync with commenting on that issue because they don't know the issue, first of all. And secondly, constitutional issues of that nature are too far-reaching and far-fetched, and they should allow the judicial process to continue for what it is. Let the High Court, let the Appellate Court, and the CCJ deal with the matter in the manner that they will, because that's a hierarchical structure. They don't look at the same thing. The CCJ is not a trial court. The Appellate Court is not a trial court. They're looking at jurisprudence, they're looking at the legitimacy of what was done by the judge, and they're looking at procedural elements and the impact of what it would be for the region as a matter of a precedent. Thirdly, I wonder why this country continues to unendlessly indulge with the Carter Institute, because he was called in at a time when it was convenient and helpful to this nation for a particular political party benefit. We have the Clinton Global Initiative Foundation, of which I'm a member since I was in the United States years ago. And I cannot be more than pleased with the amount of electronic mails I get from them each year to get advice on their program and to see how I can be indulged. And if I would want to ask Mr. Clinton later on to get me a ticket for one of his programs, I guess I'll be able to fly to the United States. That shows participation and justification of membership. I must say to the contrary, however, Mr. Hines and Mr. Alexander, that I've not been getting any penetration whatsoever to be part of the Burnham Foundation, which I sought to be and to do. And there are men like me sitting out there and women like me sitting out there with that kind of interest and commitment. Point to note. And lastly, let me say that Article 48 of the Constitution cautions as a stipulation that the provisions of Title 1 and 2 necessitate that no act or public utterance should be made by any institution or organization or individual to prejudice the public interest. That is jailable. So if we had real smart minds in this country, the things that Christopher Ram is doing, the things that other people are commenting about election and GCOM and all those kinds of things, some of them are landing themselves verbally in the hands of the law. And if I was a Christopher Ram, I can point the cases that would have been before the court already. So I would want to suggest that the foundation sticks to its purpose insofar as this election and the other complications of it is concerned, and avoid the implications of Article 4802 by not mentioning too much to the public of this country concerned with the election situation, and more particularly what would be the final outcome. Because I know as a legal mind that the outcome of that election, and the trial in that no confidence thing, is already decided. You can read through the list if you know what is going on. They can influence the CCJ. That's a decision, done deal. I know what it is. Some other legal mind in this country knows what it is. So, gentlemen, while I, applaud your indulgence and your continuity and your diligence in this organization of the foundation, there are people out there who want to support you. There are people who know what to do in their own specialized roles. And we can't be self-serving. We have to have a broader base of people that are in leadership that were part of the Burnham experience. And from the point of view of prudence, no matter what people try to justify of the late President Burnham, from a personal standpoint, I have experienced things that say, prudence is not only something concerned with individuals like me. Lots of people experience those things. So personalization, I think, should be off the table, and let's focus on the broad mission of the foundation.
That's right.
Participate.
Art Arnold.
So good afternoon to you, gentlemen, or good morning, whatever it's like.
Yeah.
And I really applaud you continually. I'll
Yeah.
reach you somehow.
Yeah, thank you very much for your call. I really appreciate the contribution you have made, and I want to say that I stay on the ground. I keep listening to people as I interact and going. But I was looking at the comments made by Dr. Jack Dew, the leader of the opposition recently, where you can deduce from his comments and the statements that are being made, not just by him, that they seem to be attempting to dictate to the CCG what they should, when they should do what they should do, and how they should do what they should do. What are your views on these statements, Vincent?
Well, there's a frenzy about this whole thing. I would simply leave it to the CCJ to do what it has to do, and not to be distracted by Barry Jaglio. He's become so irrational. It's unbelievable. It's like a mad cow, on loose. But I would like to comment on two things that the caller said. One, about the participation in this program. We do, in fact, from time to time invite other persons who are knowledgeable of the Burnham era to this program. So that's a point taken, and we do invite such persons from time to time. We don't have that many persons with the Burnham family around, so that unfortunately they're not here to be invited. The second point I want to make is that the Burnham Foundation relates to at the mass level. Our interactions are not highly personalized interactions, they are mass interactions. So for example, notification of what we are doing is done publicly. And anyone who listens to this program will have information on what we are doing. And today we have already intimated, we'll be giving information on our upcoming conference. And so Mr. Christiani, I hope he continues to listen to the program and would know that on the 14th of April, we are going to have the adjourned conference, and that he's welcomed to be in attendance. So that's the way we communicate in the main. We use our Facebook page, we use this program, we use community call. We hardly ever use personalized.
And for continuation, he talked about continuity. We have we call kind of cadre of elders. A cadre of elders.
Yeah, we do have a patronial, a council of patronial elders who are, for all intents and purposes, the patron of the Burnham Foundation. Since the death of the founding patron, we have developed a patronial body of elders. I can state who they are. Those persons are President Granger. It has nothing to do with his presidency.
Because he was part of the team long before he became president.
Yvonne Haywood Ben, Rashley Jackson, Hamilton Green, Sister Ryan, and Shirley Glass. So those are our council of elders who are, for all intents and purposes, the patrons of the Burnham Foundation.
Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, how are you?
Morning, sir.
Question to both of you. On the day of voting, they have a mechanism which you can scan your fingers and then before, if you vote and if you come back to vote, they can scan it and make sure that the person that you voted or the people caught by scamming the system. Do they have a system like that instead of being one of that's how, even if you vote on it, how do you raise it, sometimes it must be on its finger. So when they scan it, they put it if you vote already or not. So they can
When they scan what?
the finger, like if someone go and vote and
Oh.
go and wash it out and then come back to they're voting for themselves or something. But scan it now, scan the finger for now if they vote or not. Alright, so you can raise it.
No, we do not have a scan. It's a physical inspection at this time.
All right, thanks for calling. Yeah, I was you were talking about the elders. Morning, you're on the air.
Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Morning.
I miss Pops Burnham so much. But Charlie going on with that nonsense, he would have never done it in Pops Burnham's time. And I tried to agree for the election commission to have a house registration. Because I have plenty family gone away just 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes,
I
okay.
them outside and I saw the names to the list. So clean up the list, Vincent. I'm behind you 100%.
Yeah,
Gentlemen.
thanks very much for calling, my dear. Yeah, it's this the whole idea about the household registration a lot of people have recognized across the country about its importance. Morning, you're on the air.
Yes, good morning to you, Mr. Hines and Mr. Alexander.
Morning.
A blessed good morning to you both. We thank you for this informative message that you have sending out to the masses so that we can be informed of what Bornum has done and what is going on. But I want to know, can you say if it's illegal that the PPP is going around paying people $5,000 and $10,000 and giving them food stuff like rice for them to have their vote? I heard they're taking the ID cards. Some say they're not taking it, they're just taking the number. What can be done about this?
Two things you're asking: if it's legal.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Vincent, you will have to comment on that. Thanks for calling anyway.
And one more thing.
Yeah.
Can you send, yes, can you get books about these information concerning Bornum that it can be laid out to the youths of this country, because a lot of them don't know what's going on.
All right. I'll have Mr. Alexander respond to your two questions.
And these parliamentarians that is walking out of parliament, are they going to be paid?
Well, that's a moral issue, I suppose. That obviously is a moral issue because they have been identified or elected to the assembly. So I can kind of comment on that one. But in terms of a decision to accept the money, even though you're not there, becomes a moral issue.
It is a moral issue.
So I cannot say anything other than that. But for the other two, I'll have Mr. Alexander respond. Thank you very much for calling.
Thank you ever so much.
I think that on the question, the first question you pose, it's really a question of citizens being conscious and understanding they have a civic responsibility to vote and that no one should be able to determine how they vote. And so it's how conscious citizens are. You know, are you going to sell out your ID card and your vote for a pittance? You know, I think this has to do with the level of consciousness of citizens. But you are true. There are many reports of people going about doing all sorts of funny things. Only 2 days ago, someone from the Stats Bureau was telling me he turned up to do a normal Stats Bureau survey and found somebody else there purportedly doing some kind of survey as well. And when he asked him, so what are you doing? What's your activity? The person literally ran. So somebody who does that obviously is involved in something underhand.
Yeah.
You know? So we do have a problem of reports of people who are going around doing funny things in terms of asking people their ID cards, offering people money for their ID cards. Very, very funny things. All we will really do is tell citizens, your ID card belongs to two people, you and the government of Guyana. And no one else should be in possession of your ID card for any purpose whatsoever. And you should simply just chase Jagdio said chase them out.
Yes.
Well, these are the people you should really chase out. People who come to ask you for ID cards. Chase them out. So I joined the Jagdio with it, chase them out. But chase out the people whom he might be sending to ask you about and for their ID cards.
Morning on here.
Good morning to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
You and your host,
Morning.
Alexander. I am a Guyanese citizen and I am 43 years old. And when I look around and see what's going on in my country, Guyana, our president, which and his cabinet, he and his cabinet is trying his best. Jagdio, on the other hand, he as the opposition leader needs to take a stand, forget about the past, and let us deal with the new. We have an island on the right. Our country needs unity.
We need unity.
Yeah, our country needs unity.
I agree with you fully.
He's on the air and he's all kind of things. I don't have to explain. We all know. All I'm saying, we
as Guyanese, we have to unite. Let us put all our differences aside when it comes to the time to vote. Let us vote and maintain change.
Yeah, we see, but he's doing these things, and the comments he's making are more kind of divisive than anything else. But he also claimed that he has the interests of the Guyanese people at heart. I don't know what a contrast.
We know he does not have the country at hand because his track record is evident.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling, sir.
Done.
Yeah, I was saying to you, this issue of this morning, you're on the air.
Hello,
Morning. Morning.
Yes, sir. Good morning to you two gentlemen.
Good
Concerning
morning.
the people going around asking for ID cards and so on,
Yeah.
let me tell you what's going on. And if the APNU is plain ignorant to what is going on and trying to say that the PPP is paying people and all of that, you know what they're doing? They go into the support base. So like if they go to a house where they got about 10 people, they know they support them, but 5 of them is not even registered and it's on the list. What they're doing is getting information of those people, and they will try now to get them registered and placed in the voters list so that when the election comes, they're going to vote. But the absolute people, you know, they're saying that they want to buy votes and all that. That's not what they're doing. They absolutely now got to get up, go into their strongholds, the communities, and see a lot of youth, a lot of people who are even registered to vote, right? And get them organized and stop saying that people paying. Nobody pay nobody to vote. They're going to come out of this nonsense. Get on the ground, move around, see your support base and get them organized. That's what the people are doing. Thank you.
All right, thanks for calling, my friend. But
I just want that caller to recognize that Burnham Foundation is a non-for-profit organization. Burnham Foundation is not APNU. We might not be anti-APNU, but we're not APNU. And we are merely providing an opportunity for people to express their views on matters, and we are sharing information with the public. GCOM has embarked on household registration, and every Guyanese, irrespective of the person's political persuasion, has an opportunity to be registered. To make sure that that process is above board, GCOM will facilitate party agents being present for every registration exercise, every registration transaction, so that it's a question, as I mentioned before, of the level of the citizens' consciousness as to what their rights are, and what they ought to do, and what ought not to be done.
well, I want to I think this will be my last call before I round up with what will be happening for the continuation of our conference that was suspended. I would like to. Morning, you're on the air.
Morning.
Morning.
I'd like to make one point about the opposition.
Yes.
This man is not about racism. This man is all about his money.
He's all about.
That's money. This man ain't got time with no photo. With them photos, people don't know Barrett. Barrett ain't got time with them photos. Them photos, basically, what's in the set of them photos for you. If he interested in me, in Sugar Walker, so he said, come on. He's got $2 billion tax free. Why you don't get $500,000 every month to help these people? Don't be sure that he's really interested in them. But he ain't never said, that one said thing that. Done what we done with them man, he could get money back in it. He don't pay none for them. He and the hires. And them man in the private sector is a total business. I can tell you.
All right.
Great.
I heard you. Thanks for calling, sir. I want to tell our viewers that come the 14th of April, we will recommence our conference. We had to suspend our conference because of some other issues that came up. But for this conference, we would like to make sure that we bring to the our membership and persons who would like to join the kind of foundation, if you have an interest in joining the foundation, you can attend that conference. We will be providing you with forms so you can join our foundation and will join in the work that we do each year. So the 14th of April, we'll be having that conference, and persons who are interested to join the foundation, you can attend the conference so you can see how we conduct our business. The conference really is to give a report on our stewardship over the year and to make sure that we have our elections for our office bearers for the next 3 years, I think it is for next 3 years. So that will be held on the 14th. I don't know you have any comment, any additional
Well,
activity
the conference will be held on the 14th, quite correctly. So it will be held at the Critchlow Labour College, and it's slated to start. It's 3 in the afternoon.
3 in the afternoon.
3 p.m. in the afternoon. So anyone, Mr. Christiani and all of the Christianis, are invited. April 14th, Critchlow Labour College, 3 p.m. will be the reconvening of our annual conference, and all who are interested in being involved in the Burnham Foundation are invited to attend that conference so they can take their interest from there forward with the Burnham Foundation. I repeat, April 14th, Critchlow Labour College, 3 p.m. Our doors are open. All individuals who are interested in participating in the work of the Burnham Foundation.
And normally, what we normally have at conference, we have a special kind of presentation that is being done, and that kind of presentation would serve to really provide some stimulant for persons who are attending. So when to kind of continue with our work, you have some idea about this man and what he has been able to do during the period he traversed this earth. So that in itself brings me to the end of today's program. I want to thank our viewers. I want to thank all those who have joined in, those who have called, those persons who have been with us over the years. I want to thank you for being here today. I think the program for today has given lots of information in relation to elections. We have talked about the petition and the position being taken and what ought to happen, what should happen, what should be allowed in relation to the courts doing its work. But you have people who are trying to provide some dictates as to what should happen and how it ought to happen. That ought not to be. But like I said, our program is geared towards providing you with information so you can know what to do as citizens of this country. And I think that Forbes Burnham would be very pleased to know that we are doing what he thinks what we think he would have been doing for the people of this country. With that, I want to thank you, Vincent, for being here. I don't know if you have any last comments to make.
No, there are really no last comments except to reiterate that all are invited to participate in our work. An opportunity is there on the 14th of April to come to our conference and to start your engagement or to continue your engagement with the Forbes Burnham Foundation.
Thank you very much.